Leading through intent is about how to execute strategy in a fast-moving, complex, volatile environment. And the principle underlying it is quite simple. We make sure that we are all aligned together, so we work very deliberately on creating high alignment, and then we give people freedom of action, autonomy to actually figure out how they're going to achieve what we've all aligned behind. And it's called leading through intent because what we align behind is what we need to achieve and why. Our intent, a task and a purpose. We do not tell people how to do things, they tell us. And so it involves three basic elements. First of all, creating clarity of intent in the first place. Second, giving people a play field in which they have freedom to act. And thirdly, supporting them when they're on the play field in order to make sure that they use the space that we've given them wisely. So the three basic building blocks of leading through intent are to formulate and communicate a clear intent in the first place, to define the space, the play field, and then to support people when they are acting on it. And I'll just say a few words about each of those in turn. Formulating an intent is about making choices. We're deciding that we're going to do this and, by implication, not that. So we're making resource allocation decisions and prioritization decisions. Clarity is produced by choices and not by going into detail. Once we've got that clear in our minds, we need to formulate, and we formulate it in two parts: what we need to achieve and why we need to achieve it. In other words, a task and a purpose. The purpose is the intent of the level above us, and in order to formulate our intent, we need to think two levels up. What does my boss want, and what does my boss's boss want? But we only task one level down. In other words, we break it down into its component parts and assign those parts as areas of responsibility by the people who report to us. And that then brings us to the play field. So we've got a clear intent, and we have communicated it to our people by briefing them. And what we're going to do is to use that common shared understanding rather than tight control to give them an area of freedom, and that is their play field. We then need to encourage them to use it, but they have to understand where its boundaries are first of all. So what you need to do is to explain to them, this is how you fit in. Now I want you to go away, have a think about how you are going to accomplish that responsibility, and come back to me and brief me back. And back briefs are best done with all your direct reports together so that you can close the gaps not only up and down, but align people across between one another as well. And a play field has boundaries. You need to not only allocate resources, but define constraints as well. Two factors are always resources and constraints: time, which you have to use, but has a limit, and money. You have a budget. It's a resource, but there's a limit on that as well. You will need to add in further constraints. These are areas that we're not going to go in. This is a part of the authority which does not belong to you, but belong to somebody else. So we need to avoid that. Here are some things that you must on no account allow to happen. Once clarity about that has been achieved, the players on the play field can be left to go and make independent decisions for themselves. But your job isn't over yet. To empower them, you don't only need to give them the resources and the direction, they need support when they're making independent decisions. Particularly if they come from what is historically a high control environment, your people are going to need encouragement to use the space that you have given them. They will come to you for help. When they do so, don't take decisions that they should make, but help them to make decisions for themselves. Don't say, okay, in that case, do it this way, but coach them through a problem. Help them to think through different options. Challenge their thinking. Suggest maybe they might want to think about doing things other ways. But don't do the job of the level below you, tempting though it is to do so, because you probably think you do know the answers. You might actually be surprised at what they came up with. They may be creative. So you need to encourage them by building their self-confidence, move them to the edge of their comfort zone, which is the learning zone, but don't give them so much space that they panic, because if they feel they can't cope, they will come right back into the center of the comfort zone and you won't be able to move them outside them. So build their self-confidence by degrees, thinking about what their own needs are. Coach them, don't make decisions that they should make, and encourage them to adapt. We are, after all, expecting the situation to change. If they're still doing what everybody agreed right at the beginning in the right way, that's a cause for possible concern. Maybe they haven't noticed how things are changing. So, in sum, the three elements of leading through intent: formulate an intent by considering what really matters, by answering the Spice Girls question, what you really, really want. Formulate it as a task plus a purpose, and brief people. Allow them to brief you back. Define the playfield in terms of their roles and the boundary conditions, but get them to tell you how they're actually going to use it, and encourage them to use their space by coaching them, building their self-confidence, and making sure that you don't make decisions that they should make.